What is up, everybody? Welcome to Outlawed Thoughts, episode 74, I believe. Although I'm losing track of these numbers as we get deeper and deeper into the episodes. Today, we have a different kind of episode than you're probably used to seeing on the channel. We're not really covering a plethora of topics this episode, really just one or two, maybe, if I get bored. But I wanted to do something with what little bit of time I had, and I didn't want to go through doing an entire show just sort of rambling on. So I wanted to choose sort of a topic. So we're going to be talking about a clip that sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole a few days ago. And so I've collected a bunch of links, which we're going to go over. And what I want to kind of put forward is that this is how I do a lot of my sort of research into conspiracies or just weird topics. And so we'll go through what I collected on it and just kind of look at it all. I might cut this live stream up into some kind of video later on, but I'm not sure about that. Depends on how much I want to edit. But we're going to take a look at everything here, starting with the clip that kind of started this whole thing. I was sitting at home, scrolling through YouTube Shorts, came across a like 1 minute, 2 second long video on YouTube, and kind of went from there. So we'll play that right here.
Now, nature's a numbers game, so there are beneficial compounds that, in some balance, may outweigh the negative effects of the hydrazines, the agarotines in these mushrooms, but that jury is still out, so to speak.
What are the negative benefit or the negative effects of this?
This is an explosive area of conversation, and that puts my life in danger. So I reserve the right not to answer your question.
Whoa. I didn't expect that. It puts your life in danger talking about portobello mushrooms? He's looking at me silently. I will respectfully move on.
Thank you.
So anybody who's interested, just Google that and get back to me. You know what? Next, I'm going to have a guy who is the same height as Paul, and he's going to have a mask on, and we're going to have some sort of electric box that distorts his voice.
No, but the good news
I can tell you the story.
Yeah.
So, that is an interesting clip for a number of reasons, mainly just because I think it's interesting seeing somebody, obviously, on Rogan's podcast who's willing not to answer a question. That's very rare. You don't see it a ton. So when it does happen, I think it perks your ears up. When I first saw that clip, it was when it originally happened. This is years and years old at this point. But at the time, I think I was working in a kitchen. I wouldn't really have paid much attention to a clip like that. Whereas now, I did exactly what Rogan said. I Googled that shit and started digging to see what it is I could find regarding some of the things he was saying in the clip. And I found a collection of things that I think are pretty interesting. So we will kind of slowly work our way down the line here. Before we do that, I do want to say that the channel is slowly growing. We're at 330 subs or something around there here on the channel. We've also got a decent amount of views coming in compared to what we were getting. I mean, it's inconsistent, but it's definitely better than what it once was. So those are all positives right now that have been going pretty well. The live streams have been a lot of fun. I've been sort of keeping them less scheduled. I've been doing them on my own time, and that seems to kind of keep me a little more grounded with the whole thing. I am doing some clips now for Tower Gang, and I'm going to be rolling a bunch of those out here over the next few days. It's been weird getting my groove back for editing because I haven't really been doing it all that much for a long time, so kind of weird having to get used to doing it again and fitting it in my schedule and stuff like that, so that's a bit weird. But fun, and it's been fun to learn some new tricks too that I might not have known as well even back then. So I suppose that kind of wraps up new stuff, update stuff, channel shit. So moving on to this whole story. Um, First thing I started to do was to research the mushrooms they were talking about. These are portobello mushrooms, but really, there's a bunch of different mushrooms that are in the same family that are going to have the same traits as what I talk about going forward here, because uh, there's white cap mushrooms as well as these portobello mushrooms. There's shiitake mushrooms as well as a bunch of other um, different variations of mushrooms that you can buy at any random supermarket, by the way, that contain these chemicals that he is talking about, agarotine, or however it's pronounced, and atrazine, which is what that is. It's a correlative. So we're going to go through this stuff here a little more in depth because I've got a collection of links, but I wanted to start with the first thing that I did, which was to just do some searches for the chemicals that he mentioned. And the first thing that I came to was this page here that I'm going to put on screen. So this is the chemical, the first agent that he was talking about there in the clip. And, well, I accidentally hit the talk section here. So, occurrence. Agarotine is present as a natural phytochemical. I'm really bad with these kind of words. Agarotine content varies between individual mushrooms and across species. Agarotine content, fresh percentage, fresh weight, and raw Agaricus bisporus, for example, ranges from 0.033 to 0.173. So this isn't really important. Really, all I want to show you here on this is potential for toxicity. Although recognized as an experimental carcinogen, when used in high laboratory doses, there is no evidence that agarotine is carcinogenic to humans in amounts ingested from consuming mushrooms. So there it is, right? Stuff's not bad. Except, definitely is. And we can go kind of down this rabbit hole, but the more and more I read about some of this stuff, I went over some studies and things. It got crazier and crazier the further I went, because not only has this stuff been linked to, uh, oh, hey, we have a Korean.
Hey,
So, did you watch the clip I sent you?
I did. I think it's pretty interesting. So you're getting into some conspiracy theories now.
Mm-hmm. Little bit, yeah. Just an interesting, more of just kind of doing what I would normally do if I came across it naturally, which is just doing research and kind of collecting links, reading over some of the stuff. Specifically, we can reference back to the clip here when he's talking about specific chemicals. But when he's talking about specific chemicals here, I have the two chemicals that he refers to, or chemicals. I don't know really whether to call them that. I am not really good with chemistry stuff in general, that kind of that whole field. But it's something obviously I can read about, so it's something I'm
Yeah.
learning more about as I go along here. But basically, according to Wikipedia, the doctors of the world, it's non-carcinogenic, right? It is a carcinogenic, but it's not gonna kill you. Basically, is what it's saying.
Well, lovely.
But if you read into it here, it is one of the things that are present in uh, these mushrooms, right?
I here's the thing with this. I would have to, with substances like these, I think people would have to have different experiences, and then you have to say like, okay, we got like a sample range of people, and then what was it good? Was it bad? What?
Well, I don't think this is really a question of whether or not I don't think this is really a question of whether or not like it does anything. It's like it's more of this chemical is present, right? And I'm going to go over a couple other ones. Uh but this chemicals um agent that's in one of the mushrooms can literally be used to create rocket fuel, for instance. So
I
we'll
would
we'll
believe
go.
that.
I'll go over. I actually had somebody who was going to watch the show leave me a response to my tweet, and he had an article that I liked better than the one that I had saved. So I'm going to put that one up.
Okay.
Oh,
Sounds good to
okay.
me. Yeah. If you
I'm
want to
just
dive in.
finding the
I
message here.
apologize. Like I watched the clip very, very briefly. To me, right now, looked at Javier Milei in Israel and Palestine. Really focusing on like what's going on there, trying to break it all down. Um, I'm also not an ANCAP anymore technically, so I'm still an anarchist. So that's what I'm up to.
Yeah, it's always fun stuff. I'm looking here through my notifications. It's always Okay, here we go. I found it. This is coming from E-Bomb's World. Always the trusted news source, but
Oh
great
my God.
stuff.
What's its
Oh,
there? Like I've talked to Danny and we have a disagreement. He's like, it's NewsGuard certified. I'm like, I don't like if something's NewsGuard certified, that means nothing to me. That's like, you know, the FDA said it's fine. I'm like, so
So this is an article from 1/17/2023. So this year, the real reason Paul Stamets told Joe Rogan he can't talk about portobello mushrooms. And so we're going to read through this article real quick. Comedian, psychonaut, and podcaster Joe Rogan once hosted mushroom maniac Paul Stamets on JRE to pick the fungi's brain on fungi. At a point in the interview, Rogan brings up the beloved portobello mushroom. We learn from Stamets that there are both beneficial and harmful compounds housed inside the species fungus, hydrazines and agaricines, to be specific. According to Wikipedia, agaricines are carcinogenic in high doses.
oh
Hydrazine is used in rocket fuels. So this seemingly harmless pizza topping may be a bit more sinister than you think. Rogan presses Stamets on the topic. What are the negative side effects? What are the negative effects of this portobello? Stamets pauses to think before speaking and replies quite nonchalantly, "This is an explosive area of conversation, and it puts my life in danger, so I reserve the right not to answer the question." Whoa, Rogan voices shock on behalf of us all. Who would have thought this little mushroom you can buy in a grocery store that goes great with chicken on white and white wine harbored such dark secrets? He agrees to move on from the touchy topic. But we never got a
absolutely.
straight answer from Stamets and Rogan. In fact, the internet almost brushed past the mystery. We only got one or two Reddit and Twitter threads addressing the matter, and no conclusion, at least none made with certainty. Cue the speculatory posts.
Well,
So here's a
Leighton.
few. Uh, what?
Um, here. Well, okay. I'll say two things. Like I like Rogan, but sometimes when Rogan will mention something and it gets like really, really out there, like okay, portobellos can be used for rocket fuel, or when Alex Jones went on there and said that there are interdimensional aliens controlling people, which I don't. I actually agree with probably both, but
Have you
when
ever listened to Coast to Coast AM?
sometimes I
No,
think
like old Coast to Coast.
People
like with
talk to me
Bell.
about people used to talk about paranormal type things going on. Um,
Well, I think the point is Rogan and Alex Jones talking about that kind of stuff is not really all that out there. The stuff they're talking about is old.
I get it. I It's
Most
interesting.
of what Alex Jones talks about the interdimensional beings and all that stuff was stuff he took from Bill Cooper.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So I don't know, man. It's all interesting to me. Um,
Here
is
are a
it
few Reddit posts that this article collects here. A Garrotine's wiki article suggests they may cause DNA mutation and cancer. The hydrazines are linked to propellant used in spacecraft and spy planes. The negative effects of garrotine in portobello mushrooms. Apparently, if you cook portobellos at high temperatures, it will destabilize the garrotine. A quick Google search shows that garrotine is carcinogenic. I wonder what exactly Stamets knows. My guess is since portobello mushrooms contained agarotines and hydrazines, maybe he figured out a way to extract hydrazine, which he used as a rocket fuel from portobello mushrooms. I'm sure the manufacturer of this rocket fuel would be very worried that someone could make their currently $100 a pound product for pennies. The rocket fuel industry is worth much more than portobello mushrooms themselves. That's my theory. And so I actually think that theory there given by this guy is not a bad one.
I
But
don't say
I
it's
have some
bad,
I
but
have some other stuff to sort of support the rocket fuel stuff, specifically the government's own stuff here. But Joe Rogan found out some info on Stamets saying his life was in danger for talking about negative effects of garrotine portobello mushrooms. And this is from Shroomery. Guy claimed that Stamets told him he had corporate gangster style threats against him for his
corporate things.
research on the negative effects of these compounds. So this is again third party stuff, so I'm not a big fan of that.
Well,
A
I mean,
conspiracy
yeah, I mean, being a conspiracy. Well, what if I told you if you had this and a pair of skull candies and the discipline to be still and control your breathing, you could travel through time? Would you believe me?
yeah, like here's the thing. I grew up with like
You
it's
can time travel with this.
I have a very different view on that stuff than most people. I think a lot of that psychological stuff where you're sort of duping your brain is not
No,
necessarily as intuitive as people think.
you're not duping your brain.
Mm, you are. I've literally hung out with people who literally do that for a living, who like are professional magicians
It's
and
not a
people who do
magic trick.
hypnotism. It
Wait, no.
is.
I'm telling you 100%. I know I can break down why I think it works. It's not magic. I mean, what's
Have you ever heard of Reiki?
yes.
Okay, right. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. It's complete hooey. It's meaningless. It does nothing. It was literally invented by people who were trying to grift off of other people. It is a form of magic. Most religion came from shamanism. Shamanism itself was magic. It's all the same thing. You can't get to the end goal of faith and religion without first getting people interested. And most religions
This
do that through magic.
okay. This is not magic. This is very scientifically based. There are people who have achieved this is a state of brain hemispheric synchronization.
Right.
I I
Are you
actually
talking more? Are you referring more towards like the stuff like Stargate, like the idea of being able
no.
to
I'm talking about something called the Gateway Experience that was done in 1983 at a place which
yeah
you can visit called the Monroe Institute.
yeah
Which
that's partially what I'm referring to.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, in a state where you get both brain hemispheres synced together, consciousness, which doesn't have the boundaries pure of space and time, if you can align your consciousness to specific frequencies,
Mm.
you can
Hey,
travel.
I have a question for you. Do you think the human brain understands and perceives time?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So then, if the human brain doesn't perceive or understand time, how can it perceive itself in another time?
Because time doesn't exist.
Okay, let me do this differently. Uh,
I'm sorry. Here's how it works. Here's what
if
I
I
can.
set an apple on a table and I
Correct.
come back to that apple a month later, the apple's going to be rotten. Why is it rotten?
Because taxation is theft.
Oh, for the fuck's sakes! If you don't want to give me straight answers, I'm
It
not going to
changed.
believe a
Okay.
goddamn word you say.
Okay. Because it changed. It changed states. Now, my answer to you is this: there is a version of that apple that is still in a good, standing or health. I know. Basically, how I understand it was from an Israeli scientist named Itzhak Bentov, who postulated that, and David Bohm, that creation is done through universal hologram, which are atoms moving in oscillation. So there's no solid objects. What
Hey,
happens is the brain attunes to the universal hologram, and because of that attuning, that's where we get this state of consciousness. Consciousness is not necessarily held down by space or time. So how you see things is your own personal hologram, which creates the appearance of the brain, takes a look at comparisons, and then based on those comparisons, it gives you a picture of what you see now.
mm-hmm.
I hope did I go? Am I going too far? Am I going into Alex Jones territory? Do you want me to send you the
Have you
video?
ever? No, I don't. I understand most of what you're talking about because I've already gone through a lot of this stuff through random. Yeah, random religion stuff is my
There are
thing.
people who said they
But
hit up DMT and they're like, Kareem, this is BS. Then they do a DMT. They're like,
have you
what?
ever? Have you ever heard of the? Have you ever heard of the cave? I can't remember exactly whose paradigm it is, but it's the concept that if you have a cave with a fire behind it, people who are strapped in facing the wall of the cave, and the only thing they have interaction with is the things that walk behind them and cast shadows on the walls, right? Basically, that's the concepts behind simulation theory. It's also a lot of the same ideas around that.
Yeah, it's essentially what I'm saying is reality is creating by the universal hologram giving information to your personal hologram, which creates the appearance of the brain that
Yeah,
takes
what I would say
snap
is
thoughts.
that is about as provable in reality as any other religion or faith is, and that's
Okay,
why there's going to be people who follow it because it's completely unprovable or
it's
provable.
not. But David Bohm and Carl Pribram did the experiments to really understand how, and he called it the super implicate order, which would be the main hologram that gives.
Okay, let me phrase this way, because you can go into all this detail. It means absolutely nothing. The reality is, their entire system is built to answer the questions of how they got to their conclusion with more questions or uncertainty. It will never get to an end position. That's my point. You're adding a bunch of words and fancy ideas on top of something that needs to be a core ideology that can't be real because it's again it's the problem of the cave wall, right? You're following something that you can never understand that somebody is just building behind you. That's
No,
blind faith, which
I
you can
don't.
have. That's fine, but not really my thing.
All right, because I don't want to mess up the podcast talking about mushrooms as rocket fuel.
We're not gonna
So
mess anything up. I don't
what
care.
what I will do is send you, because some people said yes, I agree with it, and some people, like, I talked to other voluntarists about it, and I said no, this is, yeah, I think it just, hooky spooky pseudoscience. I will send you the thing on Twitter. You can click on it. You can go through the video, play it in the background. Tell me if you think it has credibility. That's what I'll say. Attune your
Okay.
mind to the universal hologram and see the differences in what is considered to be space time perception.
Yeah, again, the things you're saying aren't new. They're things that other groups have said before, and they're not. They don't actually mean anything
Yes, they do.
because you. It doesn't.
Are
You,
you telling me David Bohm and Carl Pribram and
yeah, I'm
Dr.
telling you,
Moore?
whoever it is that has created a business out of
It's
telling
not a
people that
business.
they have the answers to the
It's a YouTube
universe,
channel. It's a YouTube video.
that's a
It's a
business.
CIA document. It was a classified CIA document. It's not a
Oh,
business.
so this was somebody who was being paid by the government.
I'm not a fan of the CIA. This is somebody who, okay, Dr. Monroe had what we would call OBEs, out of body experiences. I think he
Yeah, I
tried to.
know all about that horse
I
shit.
think he tried to. It's not BS, man.
Okay, that's the thing that okay, this is what I'm telling you. This is where I'm going to separate from you completely. My grandfather was a magician. My grandmother has a
This is magic.
degree in religious studies. Okay? Like I've grown up learning about both sides of the argument you're talking about. The reality is no. I have met guys that if we're in a room with you could convince you to say and do just about fucking anything. There are people out there who are very talented at making people think they're in the right. And it's not hypnotism, for instance, is a very old practice that's been done for thousands of years.
That
And
wasn't
it's based
hypnotized.
around
Look,
it. Well, no. So, okay, give you an idea.
I,
Every priest and every pastor and every large congregate religious person who's ever gone up and given a speech is literally using hypnotism. It is
Leighton, these people aren't using hypnotism. They're not religious. They're physicists. These
no,
people
no,
are
no, no,
all
no, no. You're
physicists
missing
or
my
business
point. You're
people.
missing again. My point is not that they are that. My point is that their basis for science, their end goal, the basis of anything that is based around simulation to any degree, whether it is this full simulation theory or whether it is in part, is it's a fugazi. It's a grift. It's not real. It can't be proven, it can't be disproven. It is a lie that will be sold to people en masse. To me, it's very similar to back in the day when
But if
a
it
lot
can't
of
be,
religions.
okay. Actually, what I think this is doing is the opposite of that. I think it can be proven um, through observing phenomena in quantum physics. I also
Right,
think
but
it can be.
okay. Right, I'll take this one thing at a time because otherwise this is going to get really muddled. How do you measure anomalies in quantum space as they call it, which we don't even really understand to any degree, let alone have a grasp onto the
We're
degree to
working
even
on it. We're
right.
getting there, homie.
Again, I this is what I get on people who talk about the Reiki thing and the spiritualism thing and all that. I go, you understand that we as humans don't even understand the brain and subconscious you're claiming you understand. So
I'm not
it's
saying I
sort of
understand it. I'm saying it's likely consciousness because what I see, I mean, what I see a lot of this stuff as is taking the spiritual aspect, the science aspect, looking at comparisons and trying to deduce what constitutes reality and causality. Now, I can send you the video and you can take a look at it and see what's
how
what.
long is the video?
It's a minute here. It takes a second. And here's the thing. Maybe Reiki works because people have the inherent belief that healing is taking place, so the subconscious
But
is
that's
that
literally
power.
what I'm saying. That is hypnotism. That is the definition of hypnotism. It is literally what it is. It is making you believe that the thing you are doing is literally doing what you think it is. It's fucking with your head.
Okay. What's interesting is because you're saying it's messing with your head or not. I'm going to say, I'm sure there are some grifters of Reiki. I'm sure there are some people who are just messing with your head. I am fairly confident that because everything is energy, there's probably some basis to what's going on there. Can I prove exactly everything I know, everything that happens right now from step by step analysis. No. What I can say is that I do believe there's phenomena that you can test and say and look at and say here. There's actually I was listening to a lady. Oh wow, this is an hour. Um, I didn't realize it was that long. I listened to it a bunch of times. Um, I think also the fact that it was declassified has some basis here. I don't want to get off topic though, so I apologize if I'm getting off topic. Look, I believe in this stuff. I got my shungite. I got my EMF blockers. We're gonna we're gonna hit up some ascended masters with
Yeah,
Leighton in
I
the
saved that
eighth
video, but
dimension.
we're not gonna react to it because it's an hour long. I'd be here all night. But it's
You ever hit up your ascended masters in the eighth dimension? Leighton's like, nah, man, that I'm too sciencey,
no, it's the
bro.
opposite of that. I think the science you're talking about is all kind of horseshit. And it's the same as the science that the people who believe in the COVID shit are following. It's the same horse shit. By the way, it's the same
No, it
horse
isn't.
shit invented by the same people.
No, first of all, no, it isn't. Bob Monroe was a good dude. He was a good. Unlike Corn Pop, Bob Monroe was a good dude. Fauci, and I ain't having no heart attacks, so I guess I'm doing all right. No blood clots either. So
The first guy you
I'm
mentioned,
not
you just said worked for the CIA.
the CIA. Okay, so what happened? Let me give you the back. Dr. Monroe was a businessman, just regular dude. He came across OBEs, out of body experiences. Whether you believe that to be true or not, he recorded it in a book, Journeys Out of the Body. Then he had an institute down the line to help understand
The Monroe
the
Institute,
science
I
of
remember that whole story.
yes.
Because the building got
The CIA
abandoned.
went there. The CIA went there to understand this and came up with a report of what the nature of consciousness is. Some people think it's nuts. Like, some people are like, Kareem, you
Yeah,
just
so
lost your mind.
again, yeah, I
Some
mean,
people are like,
from the get-go, the idea of understanding the consciousness is not a possibility from even the stuff we have today, let alone
you could, why would you not want to look into the scienceness of how consciousness works?
you're missing the point. If I tell you to fix a car, but you've never seen a car before, other than a photo of it, you're not going to have any idea how to fix a car. The point I'm trying to get
Correct.
across is you're talking about people doing tests and trying to create solutions or to solve problems around the human subconscious, around the human brain, which is something that we do not understand at all. We
Well,
can't map it, we can't read it, we can't.
but you can test it scientifically. You could put on the problem solving. Look,
But you don't know what's going on
you can,
inside of it. There are
yeah,
billions.
I don't
There are
know.
billions of
Well, here's
neuron
what
passageways. There are millions of signals
here's my
being
hypo.
sent in your
Okay,
head in any given
Here-
second.
I get it. I get it. Here's my hypothesis for the problem solving, because you're talking about how to solve problems. You take your phone, you take your computer, you type in Gateway Experience Problem Solving Meditation. Listen to Dr. Monroe. You picture, visualize the cosmic egg. You visualize an energy conversion box, which will send you to think. And then in that meditation of hemispheric synchronization, your higher self, which is you without limitations, will give you an answer to
Right.
an analytical,
And then when you're
mathematical, or
done
physics
doing
problem.
this, I want you to get a plane ticket. I want you to fly to either Clearwater, Florida, or Hollywood, California, and I want you to walk into the
And
nearest Scientologist building, and I want you to go ahead and
that,
use an altimeter, and they're going to tell you that there is this thing called the Gaia life seed. It's a concept that we're all connected together within an interlooping concept of brain power. And that all of us humans are connected to that. And so we're all one. And this is what gives you the idea of not harming other humans. It's what bases their ideas on not stealing and all these same ideas you get from the Bible and all that good stuff. What I'm trying to get through by this is that there's no difference between those two things. They are exactly the same. They are based in the same ideas. They are based in
Not
the
the
same
same thing.
concepts. It is. It is.
Huxley just made some stuff up. This actually has some basis.
How do you know that?
I don't have any proof after. For one, Huxley doesn't even have any exercises or anything I can do to say, okay, I'm here, and then I get
within
empirical data to here.
Within Scientology, there's 1,000 things you can do at home to exercise the faith.
I'm not a Scientologist, man.
Well, why not?
I was.
That's my question. Why aren't you? Why aren't you a Scientologist? Do you know what their faith is? Do you know if they're wrong? Come on. What do you think, they're crazy? You don't think they're crazy? Come on, you got to be open-minded. I'm trying to prove a point. The point is that we all recognize some of this stuff is just either A, you can't prove it, or B, it's just not really believable from a reality standpoint. Some of the transcendentalism and some of that stuff and
Well,
transmutation and that kind of stuff is fine. Some of it has a basis in old world shamanism, but the reality is that most of the ideas that all of us have regarding faith come from shamanism. So if your faith is connected to shamanism already, then it's somebody who is most likely taking an already existing faith and attempting to capitalize on it and create a new modern variation of that, right? This is what has destroyed Judaism and Catholicism and Christianity across the world.
well, I have a different. Well, we can say there's something else that destroyed Judaism.
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. But that's, to me, it's the same concept. Do you? 1 second here. I'll expand on this. Zionism as a concept does exactly what Scientology or New World Catholicism or New World Christianity does, which is it takes an already set religious belief and takes it over and gets the people who believe in it to come to their side. So simulation theory.
But the issue with Zionism, okay, I'll say this: believe whatever you want, like, dude nuke aliens in a volcano. That's fine, whatever. But you can't. The problem I have with that belief is like, oh, okay, I'm going to take other people's stuff and hurt them. Then you're going too far. Like, if I say experience, and if you disagree with me, I'll beat you up. Then I've gone too far. That being said, on a purely metaphysical level, I think there's open arrays for debates. And I do think you can try some of these meditations and say, hey, I have this goal. Then I start to see physical manifestations in the real world, which is the hologram, which is you creating a hologram from your hologram here that is allowing changes to happen in what's perceived to be space-time, which is the memory attuning, the consciousness memory attuning itself to that hologram, eventually creating the new you, because you changed a superposition, which happens in the quantum first, then takes place later.
Yeah. And again, responding to that is like, again, I can word salad a bunch of stuff out there, but the reality is I just don't like.
I'm not word salading it, man.
No, I think they're word saddling it. You're not. You're being fed something that is horseshit, and I'm listening to you regurgitate it, and I'm wondering how somebody like you got fed a line of bullshit.
Dude, okay, look, listen. My favorite YouTuber, his name's Aaron Dowdy. You should check him out. There are certain points where I get tired of talking like heavy metal and libertarian. Like libertarianism sometimes is tough to talk, especially when you have to look at Gaza or Yemen or things like that over and over and over. It's like,
so
man,
just don't.
I need the Federal Reserve. No, I do. It's just you take breaks. Like, you don't lift weights 10 hours a day. You lift it a couple hours a day, and then you go, or you don't smoke weed 10 hours a day. You smoke it like I don't know. You smoke it like, you eat a couple gummies, or you hit your sativa or indica or your hybrid, and you're good. I was always interested in metaphysics, and then Aaron Dowdy talked about it. Then Greg Reese from InfoWars talked about it. I started looking more and more into it. I got very interested. I started doing some of the meditations. I had some pretty wild metaphysical experiences that I never had on any substance. Not saying I do a whole bunch. I took shrooms once. I smoked weed a handful of times, and I took salvia once. And I said, okay, these meditations have done some cool things, and what's the potential of them? How does the nature of reality work? And this might be a potential answer given by Dr. Monroe.
Okay, I have a question for you. Where have you been?
Me?
Yeah, where have you traveled to? Where have you been?
I didn't. So I remember what my grandma's apartment looked like.
No. Like, I mean
So I got a
like,
still image of
like, what states have you been to? Let's do it that way. What other countries have you been to? Anything?
Egypt,
Egypt,
Mexico. I went to
Mexico.
Florida for Yale. I've been to Tennessee on tour. I went to New York to record something. I've been to California for a minute. Been to
Okay.
Minnesota.
Where
Ohio for
where in California?
LA.
Okay, so the worst part of California. Okay. So here,
No, I
I'm
didn't get
gonna
this
put it this way.
Scientology.
Have you
I
been to
don't
the
like
Grand
Scientology.
Canyon?
No,
Okay. So have you been to Zion National Park?
no,
Okay. Grand Tetons.
no.
Okay. So go stand in any of these locations. These are places that are empty vessels. There are no people around you for miles. Okay? That is meditation. That is going to get you further than just about anything you're going to do with a pair of headphones sitting in your house. Because A, it involves actual physical inhibition. Inhibitions. It involves you actually doing something. Which, if you look into what meditation is from back in, shamanism, where it comes from and where people started using it first, that was the entire point of it. It wasn't about getting your mind set in a new place. It was about grounding yourself. It was about connecting yourself to your physical body, not getting yourself out of it. The new version of this that was connected to yoga and this horse shit that comes from India is exactly that. It is horse shit, eat the poo poo crap. It's not real shamanism. It doesn't have a basis in history. It has a basis in money and uh, gyms that can sell people memberships based on them going and learning about crystals and horseshit that don't really do anything because they're not based in any actual old world beliefs. I think your internet is like running like crap too, by the way, because you like glitch forward in time at points. Like you're getting caught up.
Yeah, give me a second.
It's not a big deal. I mean, I can still hear
I'm
you.
not
So.
sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I can hop
But
back into some of
yeah,
this stuff. So,
sorry.
but
Going over.
no, you're fine. I'm just
But
off.
meditation is how Bodhi. To me, meditation is how Bodhidharma defined it, which is to have. You can walk and have meditation. You can say it's not having thoughts in your mind like, oh, I got to do this, I got to eat chicken, I got to smoke, I got to,
I think attempting to define meditation is already ruining the whole concept of meditation because it's not something that's meant to be done on an organized level. It's not something that's going to be the same
All
for
right.
a group of 100
Then I'll
people.
say this. Seeing your nature is Zen. Unless you can see your nature, then that is not Zen. Does that
You
sound
see,
good?
like, no, I mean, it can sound good to you, that's fine, but it to me, it sounds absolutely meaningless. I can read you a dozen proverbs that say the same thing that also are meaningless. Um,
ANCAPs, why can't ANCAPs be more fun?
I'm fucking absolutely dandy. I just listen, religion specifically and science that bleeds into it, these concepts and the whole simulation theory stuff, which just bleeds into is something I've talked about for quite some time because I think it's complete horseshit. It's lazy. It's something that it's the definition of lazy. It's the definition of grifting. It is scientific grifting. It's like the flat Earth horseshit. These people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars with these massive accounts, basically just trolling people. It's one gigantic troll from the top down. It started on fucking 4chan forums. The people who follow it today are boomers and idiots. I don't think any of that stuff holds weight. And frankly, I think a lot of it is, I mean, again, if you've researched some of the stuff I have, researched Nexium. Nexium did exactly what all these groups do. It's the same shit. They were a cult. The guy head of it got arrested for for trafficking.
That's bad.
Look into the
Man.
Finders. The Finders cult. The Finders cult literally did exactly what a lot of these people in the modern world are lauding and talking about loving.
What about you just look into Neville Goddard or something, homie? And learn about the law of assumption.
The problem with all of this is that you don't need somebody to tell you the laws of faith. That's why it's faith. It doesn't. You don't believe in half of the laws of science that everybody does.
I do.
You don't. If you break it down, you don't. None of us do. If you actually break it down.
Okay.
Do you believe in evolution the way that everybody else believes that it goes on?
No.
Okay, there you go. So my point is that exact. Do you think we understand gravity enough to call it a subset in our entire existence as we are? Considering we basically just write everything we don't understand scientifically off as dark matter and call it a day?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Here's what I know. If someone says a phenomenon exists, then you test the phenomena and you have a hypothesis and you see what results after. If I want set thingy, is there a method to get set thingy? And oh, hey, set thingy popped up. Can I make set thingy pop up again? Boop, boop, boop. Okay, cool.
Okay, but if it's but if it's a metaphysical creation through meditation, through this formed idea that you've created through your subconscious, then wouldn't you just be likely tricking yourself?
No.
All your tests would come out positive because that's what you want. That's the existence you want to happen. That's the simulation you want to be in.
We are in a simulation.
But you're seeing that's a paradox. What I just laid out in front of you is a paradox. If you're living in a simulation, right, and you believe you can test to prove that you are living in that simulation, your test is always going to prove that you're living in a simulation because that's what you want. That's what the simulation would give you. So how do you know that you're actually in a simulation or not?
By studying the nature of atoms.
Okay, but if you're in a simulation studying atoms, are all your tests on atoms not going to come out as though you are correct about your theory because that is what you want as an outcome?
Largely, yes, because...
Right, so then that's a paradox.
There is a paradox in this that is hard because of human existence, because there is system and considerations when you postulate your conscious to look at a specific thing. I don't have an exact answer.
Well, I mean, to me, that's earth-shattering. If there's no way for you to measure, again, think about this in the terms of economics. Strip away all the metaphysical horseshit, right? If you can't put a value on it, right? How do you know what to do with it, right? That's the whole concept behind
value is inherently subjective. Value is subjective. So you might say, oh, Incas
right.
and sativas are worth it.
But if value is subjective,
I say no value.
everybody is in agreement. If everybody agrees that it either has a value of 0 or a value of 100 million, right? Everybody agrees that it's a real item in the market. So there's no paradox there. But if you're living in a simulation, right? And I'm going to do a test. I'm going to test these atoms and see what they do on the other side of this board. I'm going to fire the this laser and see what happens, right? Your test is always going to be in the positive of whatever you want to see within your simulated reality. The guy next to you could be doing the exact same test and get a different result because that's what he needs for his reality. So my point there
So
is
there have been tests done. Okay, to not, I'm gonna really go out into crazy land, but at the Monroe Institute, there's a concept of what we call sympathetic oscillation, where you have one person stay in the focus 12 state, which is an enhanced state. Now, considering what we have now, a focus 12, which means a heightened state of the present moment. You can have somebody else in focus 15, which is the past, where they can see thought forms, and focus 21. And they had them read numbers on a screen. Some of them have got some of the digits right, but not all of them got, everything right, because in my opinion, the simulation is always changing. So people who test it are going to see different phenomena. I think the underlying idea of what we would call a simulation is that it's information in transit that creates holograms. Look at the video for yourself and tell me what you think.
I mean, I have no problem.
I think you think I'm crazy.
I have no problem doing that, but I can tell you after listening to this that it's just not. It's the same story I've heard 1,000 times a different way. It's yeah, it's yeah. Yeah. We could go back and forth on it, I'm sure, for days. It's not going to be something we probably land on agreeing on.
I think there's a science to manifestation. Let's say that.
I don't. I think manifestation is the biggest crock of horse shit that was sold by grifters and psychologists and magicians that has ever existed within faith and science. So,
All right. I thought you were the gentle Jew giant. Now you're getting
I have
all,
never
lame.
told anybody I'm gentle. Let's be very clear about that. I'm nice. I'm even nice when I argue. But
Is that because you've attuned your subconscious to be nice, and you have a self-concept of yourself being a chill dude?
oh, I'm sure. Okay, so
You just gotta think
I did find this interesting.
superposition.
Oh, you froze up there for a second. I found this. I found this when I was looking for the Paul Stamets stuff. I found this this Wikipedia for a guy named Stephen Hayden Pollock. Okay, this is this guy here. On September 3rd, 1977, in Tampa, Florida, while the Second International Mycological Congress was ongoing, Pollock and Gary Linkoff discovered a new species of psychoactive mushroom, which they named psilocybin tabensis. Pollock wrote a book on magic mushroom cultivation in 1977. It contained his research on several ways to cultivate magic mushrooms, including the method of cultivation in brown rice that was later demonstrated to produce mushrooms of high psilocybin content. So that's a system that's still used today by mushroom growers, even guys that I know. It's a very common system. Pollock isolated a strain of P. tapensis, which that produced a Cyrotia. I'm not even sure how to say that word now that I think about it. Of a size much bigger than known before. This discovery enabled a means of using psilocybin in places where magic mushrooms are illegal. Pollock envisioned creating the first legal medical mushroom research laboratory and estimated he would need about $2 million to set it up. Together with another mushroom lover, Michael Forbes, he founded a company called Hidden Creek in 1979 to sell Tapensis scrotium by mail. The company advertised in the monthly magazine Hind Times and became the largest magic mushroom vendor in the world within the same year. As well as selling mushrooms and prescriptions, Pollock planted an acre of cannabis to get the funds needed for his research. He traveled to Amazon and Mexico to study psychoactive mushrooms and discovered 3 species in 1979. In 1980, because of high volume of illegal prescription writing, the state pharmacy board alerted employees about his practice. As a workaround, Pollock bought his own pharmacy to supply his customers. Death. On the evening of January 31st, 1981, Pollock worked late at his pharmaceutical practice. He spoke to his girlfriend, Mitzi, over the phone at 7 and told her that he could not meet her for dinner and that he was expecting a patient. At 9:30, he received a phone call from fellow mycologist Paul Stamets, the man we just watched in the beginning of this episode. But Pollock cut the call short, claiming that some patients had arrived. Mitzi called several more times through the night, but Pollock did not answer. Worried, she went to his office at 11. The place had been ransacked, and Pollock was lying dead in a corner, having been shot in the head. The police found 1,753 jars of growing psychoactive mushrooms in Pollock's greenhouse. These were dumped and burned by the San Antonio Narcotics Force. In 1983, Detective Anton Michelet gathered evidence against the 3 men whom he suspected of the murder: Ernest Deitzman and Jerry Baker, who were drug dependents and patients of Pollock's, and Arthur Linz, a methamphetamine dealer. An informant told Michelet that these men had plotted to rob Pollock for his money, and their fingerprints matched those found at the crime scene. According to the police report, Michelet brought the case to District Attorney Terry McDonald, who refused to prosecute for unknown reasons. In
Hey,
2000,
Leighton.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Death doesn't exist, by the way. Just transfer to the astral plane, and you still have memory forms.
Dude, I grew up with a grandmother who was pagan. You're saying nothing I haven't heard before.
We should make metaphysical thoughts with Leighton. That'd be a great show. Be like, hey, Leighton, I heard this. Like, no.
Oh, I would
BS,
totally do a show that just focused on religion and that kind of stuff. I talk about it all the time, but it's just something that I've talked about that since I was young because I grew up with my grandmother.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll save you some money. I'll teach you how to remote view, and then you can go to Yale without having a plane ticket. See, isn't that cool?
Yeah, great plan. Anyway,
all right, I gotta run to the gym, but I'll talk to you in a minute. Thanks for having me on, though.
No, take it easy. Have a nice night.
You too.
Peace.
I will. There's a version of me that's having a good and bad night, so I'll just attune myself to the version that's having a good night.
Have fun with that.
Quantum superposition. Woo.
Peace. All right. So just me now. So we're going to keep going over some of this stuff here. Get off the religion, metaphysical horseshit topic and start talking more about this article and stuff. So anyway, Paul Stamets was the last guy to talk to that dude before he died, and he was looking to build a laboratory to talk about mushrooms. So, side theory here, it is possible that that guy was looking at studying some of the same chemicals in mushrooms that Stamets is refusing to talk about on the Rogan podcast, which is something I find quite interesting as a theory. Maybe this guy got too close to something and got a bullet put in the back of his head because of it. It wouldn't be the first time we would point towards the federal government as taking somebody out, in my opinion. Now, I found a couple different PubMed articles talking about the advocacy of some of these chemicals that were present in the portobello mushrooms and whitecap mushrooms, and it does appear to be genuine. It does appear to have a carcinogenic property if the mushrooms are uncooked, although they claim that goes away when they're cooked. But I don't know anybody, including myself, who would eat something they knew was carcinogenic, just because they were going to cook it. And that's just my own personal take. But yeah, it's a crazy kind of rabbit hole that is going to need a lot of detail for me to go over really kind of fully. And unfortunately, I've got a bunch of stuff I have to do today, including go cash a check real quick. So Go check out the YouTube videos that I put up here recently, and stay tuned because we're going to do kind of a part 2 to this episode very soon, like within the next couple days. Peace. Take it easy. Thanks for hanging out in the chat, JC. Jonathan, you guys are awesome.